Getting a message, meeting is now streaming live, so.
You got it? Okay.
Okay. I'll call the meeting to order, 1300 hours. And we'll do roll call. Kathy, are you in line back there?
I cannot see the screen, so could you do a roll call?
We got everybody?
Yeah, and Tim Henniger has also joined us.
Yep.
I don't see Bob Barbian on yet.
No, I don't either.
I'll send him a text.
Okay.
Okay.
Greg, can you do a roll call so Kathy gets the names?
Okay, we have Greg Hansen, Keith Butcher, Dan Erickson, Counselor Harold, Kathy and Scott from the main office, Ryan, Mayor Schumacher, and Tim Henniger are present and accounted for. We expect Mr. Barbian to join us shortly, I would expect.
Thank you.
First item on the agenda is I'd like to strike a couple things. If folks with agendas in front of you.
And does everybody see it? I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Down to number 8 under new business. I'd like to strike staffing and general manager annual review. I'd like to add an item 8J. I'd like to include a short discussion about email for the utility.
Okay, so I have striking item 8H and item HI and adding 8J for email.
Yes, sir. Okay. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 22nd, 2020.
And I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 2-0. Okay. Number 3, public comment. This is our public comment time. It's a little easier when we're having meetings out in the open, but Keith indicated earlier he had not received anything. Kathy, do you have any last minute shots there on the open forum?
No, I do not.
Mr. Henniger, did you want to address us at this time?
Mr. Chairman, no, the agenda looks good. Thank you for checking.
Approval of the agenda with the additions and or deletions.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with making those 2 deletions and the 1 addition.
All those, that's a motion and a second. Second from me. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Number 5, approval of the accounts payable.
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Section 6. Mr. Mayor, you're first up on the Section 6, reports and correspondence.
Thank you, Chairman Hansen, for having me. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So thank you again for having me on your agenda for the PUC. I have a couple items I wanted to talk about and address, and I didn't know if you guys got your guys' pamphlet. This is the Southern Minnesota Power Agency annual packet. Did you guys get yours?
Yes, I have one.
Chairman, did you get yours?
Yes, sir, I did.
No, I did not.
Okay.
I'll make sure you get one, Dan.
Okay.
Very good. Very, very well put together. Had a lot of great items in here that, were able to be reviewed. I'm sure this is public information, so I'll share it with you. And I go back to the last page here. This is the part that I'm super, I wouldn't say disappointed, but I wish you guys would make changes here. And when you look at the last page on here, this is all of the members, all of our voting members for Southern Minnesota Power. And so like when we look at the annual meeting and board of directors, you can see that, the different cities have different people to support or vote based on their membership or based on theirs. And for ours, it's Keith Butcher. And, as I've said this before, and I'm saying it again, I think this should be, Chairman Hansen or Commissioner Dan Erickson, someone who lives here, someone who pays our bills and who meets our constituents and people of our community, so that you're actually taking the voice of the people and you're bringing it to the association. And so I've said this before and I say it again. I hope that by the time you guys come up, you guys remove Keith Butcher as our voting member at Southern Minnesota Power, and one of the people that the city council appointed be put on there. Because I know that Mr. Butcher has said in the past and before that nobody else can have this job except for him. Well, I want to.
When did I ever say that, Brad?
Well, it's been said. It's been said.
No, I have not said that. When the list that you're looking at is the vast majority of the people on there are the people responsible for running the utility in those communities.
And so I was going to bring up Maura. You see Maura on here, and Maura, it's the city administrator, and her name is Lindy Crawford.
Right, because she's also the utility general manager.
Correct. And that's where I'm going back with that. So as an example, that Lindy would understand because she meets people through planning and zoning. She attends all the meetings. She's there as a heartbeat, as a boots on the ground in a community, understanding what's happening. And
in Maura, she is the utility general manager, which is why she holds that position.
Correct. And so I just want to point out that, again, we go back, and if you go to Lake City, Minnesota, his name is Scott Jensen. He's the director of public works. Because the electric utility is under the public works department for Lake City. Each community is structured differently, and that needs to be understood. And that's why Mr. Butcher consistently says that it's only him that could ever do that job, when I'm saying to you, it can be any person that's part of the.
Brad, Mayor, I've never said that. If you look at Grand Marais, you will see that they have a commissioner as the appointment because George Wilkes has been very involved. Each community, each utility picks who they want. And with the involvement that SIPA has in transmission and understanding how the electric utility operates, that's the majority of the time they pick the general manager of the electric utility for the formal representative position.
And what I'm saying,
those meetings, I also need to point out, those meetings are also open that if any commissioner ever wanted to attend, they can.
And again, I'm saying as a city council member and the mayor, my preference would be that you were appointed, both Commissioner Erickson and Chairman Hansen, that we want you there. And I'm not saying this as just me. The people of this community want somebody voting as representing them. They also pay a utility bill. Mr. Butcher doesn't pay the bills in town. And that's where it comes back to. He shows up, spends a little bit of money on lunch, and goes home. You guys live here. You go to school. You send your kids to school here. You participate in this community, and we want your voice on that board. And that's where I'm going out with my first thing. And this is it. It's a great packet. You should read through this. It was very well put together by Southern Minnesota Power Association. It's very good. So that's my first thing. My second thing was I wanted to talk about North Branch. You know, I had a great conversation since our last PUC meeting with Mayor Jim of North Branch. And, you know, it's unfortunate that what Mr. Butcher did when he went over there to get appointed on their hiring committee for their new general manager was he didn't tell the full story of what's actually happened here in Princeton. And so it was unfortunate, but I think that it all worked itself out based on the conversation that we had. Because again, we've invited Mr. Butcher to participate in our community, to be a part of the city council, and to be a part of the process to build a relationship. It's unfortunate that the relationship is being built one-sidedly, and Mayor Jim totally realized that after he had contact with me, read what Councilor Gerald had said after she was appointed. And so that kind of worked itself out. But I would say that, you know, use caution when you say, hey, we're from Princeton and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I should be on your hiring committee. And the fact of the matter is that's not actually the truth. And so let's be honest about being—
Well, Mayor, your characterization of the entire situation is not accurate. I work and communicate with our colleagues at various utilities around the state on a regular basis as part of being part of a collaborative industry that constitutes Minnesota Municipal Utilities. And I work with them and ask them questions, and they talk to me and ask me questions. We share information, we work in partnership. When this particular situation came up, I did not lobby for anything. I did not ask to be on it. I simply was talking to them. They asked me, how currently does a hiring process work for a general manager? I gave them some thoughts, and they considered having me on their screening committee. It wasn't anything that I lobbied for. It's not something that I went out and pursued. I offered my time and services to help my colleagues. That's what we do here at Princeton Public Utilities, is we partner with folks. I understand that you've talked to folks over there, and North Branch is dealing with a difficult search to find a new general manager as they lead themselves into the future. I wish them well. I still communicate with my colleagues at North Branch, and I fully anticipate that they will find somebody that will help them in the future.
And so that comes back to the same fact, Mr. Chairman. I wish that Mr. Butcher would work as hard for the residents of our community, which he has, and it's on the agenda, which shows that he did a collaborative project with our city, and it turned out phenomenal. Just drive down Rum River Drive or First Street. But it's that exact same energy and ambition that we need Mr. Butcher to continue to do for the people of our city, and keep his nose out of the city of North Branch and keep his eyes on his own bobber, because that success leads to success for the residents and business owners of Princeton. And so that's where I'm going back with that conversation was, I wish that everything that you said or got said at North Branch was the truth. I wish you'd come to our meetings. I wish you'd participate in our community more, but you've got a long ways to go. And I'm sorry that you took off the employer review, because the truth of the matter is you've got all of the potential in the world to be successful in Princeton, but so far we've only seen just a small segment of it. And so that's what I want to talk about for that. The next will be, I got a list. The next would be last month.
If I may, Tim is raising his hand. He has a question. Tim?
Your Honor, if you have a list all ready to go, could you please provide it to everybody on this Zoom call after we're done? It would be appreciated. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So next on this list of items was Mr. Butcher had put out a time and seconds that one of the employees of Princeton Public Utilities did to help with fire calls. Okay. And so Mr. Butcher said that one firefighter was gone for 33 minutes and 10 seconds, whatever day it was, as he was out helping with a fire call. We appreciate that process. And we also have another firefighter on our fire department that works for another utility company in Princeton. They've got a Main Street location. And he also participates, and his employer doesn't nickel and dime him by the minute and second that he's gone. So I just want to bring that up. And the fact
and Mayor, I've never nickeled and dimed on any of that. I was simply pointing out that there have been statements made by you that this utility is not supporting the community. And I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that there are lots of things that we do that we never mentioned before. We didn't think it was a big deal. We just went ahead and did it. But with the constant attacks on this utility about how we're insulated and not contributing and not part of the community, I felt it was important to share that information so people were aware.
Okay. And what people also aren't aware, and Mr. Hansen probably doesn't know this because he's new, was at our public safety building, we have a water meter. We pay water bills at the city. We actually pay you for the water that we use at our fire department. The water's not free. Mr. Hansen wasn't here when the water superintendent got into I wanted to say it's a disagreement that law enforcement had to come and mediate because our fire chief was filling up a fire truck at the wrong fire hydrant. Mr. Hanson, you weren't here for that. And I'm not going to elaborate the whole thing, what happened at that one time, that one instant.
Well, I think we should elaborate. There are a couple of, we do ask that anybody who pulls off a significant amount of water use the hydrant by our location. And the reason is because it's the same reason we flush every spring and fall. It kicks up sediment and it affects the water quality for various customers along that main. So when there is a large volume of water in which it's creating a disruption like that, we do ask that it comes off of the water of the hydrant right outside of our line crew shop. It helps protect our other customers. In addition, there was a situation in which that water was being used to fill swimming pools. We're not always talking about just fighting fires. This water was being used for other things. We only ask that we be aware, that we be notified when a significant amount of water is being pulled off the system. As part of our reporting requirement to the Minnesota Department of Health and the Minnesota DNR, we have to report both billed and unbilled and unmetered water consumption as best we can, because that helps us identify leaks and also protect the system. So what we're asking for is to be informed and be let know what is being taken off of the system so that we can account for it properly.
And at this time, law enforcement had to come mediate the situation because, again, our fire chief, he was just doing his job. He was getting water out of the system that the taxpayers provide. Remember, this water belongs to the taxpayers and ratepayers of the city. It's not your water. It belongs to us in our community. It's our water. And so when you come back and say, you know, this is all free and we do all of this stuff, well, not really. We pay for that. We, the ratepayers, are paying the bill. And so, again, Mr. Hanson at a later time can ask law enforcement how that whole situation had to come about and why law enforcement had to get involved in order to mediate it. Because what you paint is unicorns and rainbows. But the reality is, isn't like that. It could be like that, but again, we need more participation from Mr. Butcher. But it's only uphill from here, and you can make it all beautiful, but you have to participate, Mr. Butcher. So my last item I had, unless you want to comment more about that incident, because it was bad.
You can move on.
Okay, good. And then the last thing is I'm really confused. So as the mayor of the city of Princeton, I have a schedule of every one of our city employees, and I can pick up this computer, walk through City Hall, and I can show you. So we have a calendar that says when I'm on vacation, when Vice Mayor Zimmer goes on vacation, it all goes on the whiteboard in City Hall. So we're able to know where everybody is. And every staff member's got an initial, and that goes on this calendar. It's 2 months out, so we know the vacations. So my problem I have, Chairman, is I've called 3 times in the past month to find Mr. Butcher, and he's nowhere to be found. I call the number 389-2522, answer. They answer every time. They're great and wonderful there, but Mr. Butcher's not in the office. We can't find Keith Butcher. And so I end up having to leave him a voicemail, and it's all recorded. So it's not like I'm making this up, but where is the calendar for Princeton Public Utilities that we could see all of the vacations that are put out there? Is there even one?
Mr. Mayor, do you not have Mr. Butcher's cell phone?
Yep. And again, I'm not trying to go through, I'm trying to go back. Our office hours are from 8 until 4:30, and Mr. Butcher's not here. And staff's not giving me the cell phone number. Do I have it?
You have, but Mayor, you have my cell phone number. You have called me on my cell phone number before. Right.
But my question is that there are people, and you know, because there was an email that got back and forth that where there's another community member who was trying to get a hold of you, and he also couldn't get a hold of you either. And that's how he got a hold of the mayor, because, you know, you might not.
I'm not sure. I don't know what you're referring to. What community member has
an email chain between a customer who's moving out of our city because our utility prices are too high, and he's asked for some stuff. You wouldn't provide it. You provided some other stuff.
No, I have provided. I've answered every question he has asked. He has not called me. It was via email, and I answered all of his questions. That I have responded back to him.
After he copied the mayor on the process, then all of a sudden magically it got
well,
done.
He copied you on the first email. I mean, you can't twist this into making it sound like I didn't respond to him. You got the email right when I got it. In order to address his question, I needed to look into the issue and provide him data, which is what I did, but that all takes time.
Okay, so back to the first question. Is there a whiteboard that shows all of the vacation days of all of the staff members for Princeton Public Utilities, or does City Hall just do it different?
Well, I can't speak to how City Hall does it. I do not keep a big central public calendar for all of that stuff. But I can tell you as a general manager, even when I have not been in the office, I have fielded phone calls. The commission can attest to that. Even on the weekends, I have been in constant communication with folks on various issues as needed. So whether I'm actually sitting at my desk, waiting around for your phone call, it does not mean that I'm not working.
Well, it's funny. I only called 3 times. I'm sure there's other people in our community that have had that. That's what I'm going at. So there is no whiteboard.
I have not heard that from anyone else, only you. So when you say it's other people in the community have had the same problem, I do not know that that's accurate.
So let's go back to the civil engineer for the golf course where he said he was unable to get a hold of you.
What he said was he was working with our water superintendent, which is how I'm delegating activities. I have worked with that engineer over the last couple of weeks working on that project, and that conversations have gone extremely well. But to say that he hasn't talked to me, he's only talked to the superintendent, ignores the tasks that my individual staff do. I have full confidence in my staff to do the jobs before them and take care of situations as they arise.
Okay, so it goes back. Is there a calendar with a whiteboard that shows vacation days and times with it? And I'm only saying because the office gals there are super great at Princeton Public Utilities, but if there's no whiteboard, clearly they don't know, oh, Mr. Butcher's on vacation that day. I see his initials are on the whiteboard, says he's off. Otherwise, they don't know where you are, because that's literally what happens. I'll call the number later today and see if you stay until 4:29. I'm sure you won't.
My office staff are fully aware of where I am at, but it is not something that we're just necessarily going to share with everybody. If somebody calls in, you can act surprised all you want.
It's taxpayers' money. We're open from 8 to 4:30. You don't plan to work until 4:30 every day?
Mayor, we have separate schedules for different staff. And if you would pay attention to how we operate, you will learn this. Our field staff operates from 7 to 3:30. The office is open from 8 to 4:30 for customers that want to come in. My schedule varies depending upon the needs. And so it's not, when you're working for an electric and a water utility, it's not a matter of just punching a clock. We supply electricity and water to this community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there are a lot of activities that happen outside of business hours. So I'm not going to sit here and debate 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there.
Because you won't be there at 4:29. And I'll call a couple times in the next month and we'll see if you actually are there, or if your staff even knows where you are. Because, Mr. Chairman, what I'm getting back to is accountability. Accountability by government management to the people. Mr. Butcher clearly does not want to participate in managers' meetings at City Hall. He said that. Number 2, he does not want to be held to a schedule. He is not working 40 hours a week for our utility. And the proof is in the pudding, because you call.
And Mayor, I am working well more than 40 hours a week.
Prove it. Let's give you the time card.
Brad, could I just say something?
Sure can.
I'll get to you in a minute, Tim. Go ahead, Dan.
Obviously, Mayor, you don't understand how a business works, because the manager is not stuck at a chair 24 or 8 exact hours a day. There's different things that have to be handled that might involve getting up out of the chair, going to meetings, whatever things there are. But if someone were to ask me if I'm at my office from exact 9 to 5, yeah, there's going to be times where I'm not here. I'm sure in your business that you're not sitting at your real estate office desk 9 to 5.
Correct. I'm working.
I mean, this is just, to me, it just seems like a classic case of crying wolf. It's just for fun. We're going to make something up,
It's not making something up.
And it just doesn't give you any weight. After a while of saying so many things that aren't true, you lose your credibility.
My credibility is not shot because the fact of the matter is Mr. Butcher's not there. I understand business owners, they're the first ones on the job and they're the last ones on the job. And that's what we expect of general managers. The same
and
thing.
That's what Keith just told you.
He's not there.
Told you he's always available 24/7.
He's not.
He's been there 24/7. Whenever I've had a question, he's answered the phone. I've talked to him on weekends, nights, you know, whenever I've needed to get a hold of him, he's been there. So from, you know, that perspective,
my experience is exactly the same. As a manager in a corporation, my hours were up to me to decide. I had to make sure the job was getting done. Mr. Butcher has been available to me at crazy times at night, over the weekends, early in the morning. Whenever I've needed him, I've gotten a hold of him. Sometimes I call the office and say, is he in? No, he's working from home this morning. Fine, I get a hold of him at home. You have all the numbers you need to get a hold of Mr. Butcher whenever you need to have him. You can't make that more clear, I don't think, that if you need to get a hold of Mr. Butcher, he's available.
Okay.
Tim, you have your hand raised.
All right, this is a question for the mayor. Mayor, can you pull your cell phone out right now and tell everybody, do you have General Manager Keith Butcher's phone number in your cell phone right now or not?
Absolutely not. It's on the desk for our city clerk. I have to walk in through City Hall and get it off the desk at the city clerk's office desk. Shauna Jenkins.
Why don't you have it on your phone if you know what it is?
It's 763-389-2522. I don't need my cell phone to know numbers. I got the number.
So if you want to call the general manager, you don't have it on your cell phone. How are you going to call him?
Office managers won't, the office gals will not give out his phone number.
Well, why don't you get his cell phone number right now? Keith, why don't you give him your cell phone number to him in a public meeting? Second question for the mayor. Mayor, do you have whiteboard hours that you're scheduled in City Hall where on that whiteboard they know that you're in there, and what are they?
Nope. So the scheduled hours for the elected officials varies, but when you're gone, like if you're going to be on vacation, the mayor and vice mayor both give their vacation time when they're not going to be here so that one another can cover. The whiteboard goes through our city employees. So any one of the city council members could come in, anybody at any given time could come in. The whiteboard's right behind Shauna's desk, right behind the building inspector's office. And we've got it all published. It's somewhat public, as in all the city employees know when you're on vacation because your initials are there. It's a simple process. Many big businesses and corporations have a schedule. If Mr. Butcher doesn't operate our public utilities that way, fine, I guess. But normal functioning businesses have a vacation schedule, so you're able to accommodate that. And office staff would not say, which they've said to me in the past month, no, Mr. Butcher's not here. I don't know. You got to leave him a message. They don't give you stuff.
They do not say it. They will say that I am not in the office, that I'm not available, and would you like the voicemail?
Correct.
They are very professional. They're not with your little ad-libbing. They are very professional in how they work with customers and the public.
Correct. I've said that. They're very professional, but they don't know where you are. Nobody does.
They do know where I'm at.
Yeah, at home and not working for the people, but we can go on. We'll just go on to the next question.
Tim, did you have anything else?
If he answered my question, if it's no, he doesn't have your cell phone number in his phone, he's answered my question. That was my primary question.
Well, he has called me on my cell phone before. Yeah. It is 763-260-0069. 763-260-0069.
Perfect.
And Bob has that phone number, and lots of people have that phone number.
Now, just give it out in a public meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything else, but I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
If I may, Mayor, are you sure that is everything? Because I want to be clear. In an email that you sent out last Sunday, you did accuse me. I want to quote this properly.
For sure. Take your time.
Maybe if I'm on the agenda for the PUC meeting in May, we talk about this topic and the half dozen other items that have been pushed under the rug by PPU general manager in the past couple of months. Correct. What other items do you feel have been pushed under the rug?
So what you did to the golf course as another example of raising the price of development and putting it on the backs of the people.
And how did I do that, sir?
I'm going to tell you.
Huh?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
forced the golf course engineer to wrap a water line all the way around his building when he already had submitted to you the best and most economical plan that is functional to connect the water. And so,
and have you talked to that engineer as well as the customer in question?
I have. Yep, I have. And so what the process
oh no, let's be clear. And did they tell you that that route, rather than cutting diagonally across their parking lot, now puts that water main along the edge of their lot, thereby freeing up that lot for any development that they might want to do in the future at an insignificant incremental cost? And once they've looked at that now, they have moved forward and said that they do feel that that is the best route to use.
Wrapping the water main all the way around their entire building.
There is no significant cost and difference between the northern route at that lot and the southern route. They actually now prefer the southern route because it does not dissect their lot.
And so
you can ask them that.
I will. And what I'm
saying, it's just, are you out of touch, Brad, with what's going on? Are you not up to date on that conversation?
It's funny that you bring that up, Mr. Erickson, because everything is put into square foot and lineal foot for cost. And so when you decide that you're going to, instead of having a water main that's 500 feet and now it's 750 feet as an example, the cost goes up, Mr. Erickson. And you would know that in your business. And that's where I'm going at with Mr. Butcher. So for Mr. Butcher to call up the engineer and dial up them and ask for item after item after change after change after change order, it all costs the business owners money and the developer.
That is not accurate. What happened was we had the plan. We did our review just as we do with any new development. And we shared ideas. We said, what if rather than dissecting your parking lot, we run the lot line on the southern end and come up on the east side? They looked into it and agreed that it was a good idea. That's how development projects work. We kick ideas back and forth. I never required it. I asked them if they would look into it and let me know their thoughts. And if it didn't work out, I had told them that I was fine with their proposal as filed. But we did think there was an opportunity to make the project just a little bit better. And we had a conversation with the customer and they agreed. And they moved forward with it because there is not a significant change in cost for one route over the other.
And so what I'm saying is you have to be careful when you're spitballing it on somebody else's dime. Hey, let's run the map this way or this way. That's where I'm going at with that conversation is that, hey, maybe this time it worked out, but the next 3 times it won't. So you got. I do not think having a dialogue with a developer and to discuss different options is spitballing it. Any major development like this requires a lot of different parties to have input so that we can come up with the best plan that we can for the developer as well as for the community. And I think we had a great success with this project. Okay, and again, engineers work by the hour. So every time you spitball it, the bill goes up. I'm just pointing that out. And that's where I went with that email is that when people say, as elected officials go, yeah, I want affordable housing. I want more people to be able to successfully obtain home ownership. And then you have government employees like Mr. Butcher spitballing it back to engineers to add up billing. Billing adds up. Same thing it does with attorneys. Attorneys and engineers are the same. It's not just flat fees. It's billed by the hour, and that's appropriate. But again, you need to make sure that the government employees are managing that well because it can get out of control. And that's where I went with that email. My 6 other items I've gone through.
Actually, Tim has a question. Tim? Oh, you're muted, Tim. Your mute is on.
All right, we're going to address this email business right now. If there are emails flying back and forth and they're being CC'd down to council and to PUC members, I'm going to put the request on all of you. And I'll do a data request. It'll go to Barbian, it'll go to Butcher, and I'll start asking for emails. So be advised. That's where it's going to go.
Okay, whatever. It's public. I sent it out. It's to the public. It doesn't stop there. What's your next question, Mr. Butcher? Because you said you had another one.
No, I didn't. I mentioned you had a half dozen topics that you wanted to discuss. So I'm interested to hear what they are.
Yeah, and I'm glad. And you want to talk about the last one, the one where you're going to decide that you're going to hire more government management? So what happened is, let's go back to the last item. I don't have anything else until next month. The last item is that when we were in February, right? So we're in February and you decide you're going to outsource government working jobs, okay? Which is great. Commissioner Erickson pats you on the back, says, hey, great news. We've saved the taxpayers money. We've outsourced working people jobs, and now we've got a way to save money. Then it comes the following month. The following month, all of a sudden, Mr. Butcher decides we need to hire an office manager to manage the jobs that you've outsourced. I just want to make sure before you pat yourself on the back and dislocate your shoulder that you remember that you laid off or retired people, outsourced their jobs, and now you're creating a whole new level of government. And I know that you sent back another great email, and it was wonderful, right? Because you're really good at some things, and you are the best at some things in the utility industry, Mr. Butcher. I'll be the first one to admit that. But again, the former general manager did that job. She was there for 30 years, and she did a lot of jobs, and she worked a ton of hours in the office, and every single person watched that and seen that. She was a hardworking woman. And for you now just to push off and delegate and now hire more managers, it just feels like you're using us as a stepping stone for your resume to move on to somewhere else. That's all I'm saying.
I would point out that you referenced my email response to you, that when you compare the staffing level from last May till now, we are one short of where we were at. I am not building staff. I did not replace an individual that had retired last May because I was new. And I wanted to get a sense for how our operations flowed, where our needs were at. And I'm continuing to adjust and organize to meet the needs of this community with a 21st century utility. And that means doing more and more things via IT, as well as other opportunities, so I can provide the best service that I can to our customers. And I will continue to move forward in that direction.
I disagree. You're going to have 4 people in upper management for 17 employees when you're done. So basically, there's 1 boss for every 2 employees. It seems excessive to me. But again, if you were at the office more, I think that you could probably do all the jobs. But if you're not going to be, I can't control that. You just do whatever you want. Again,
Brad, it's a modern environment, especially as we have learned with COVID-19. A lot of us who work do so remotely. We get even more done because we have the technology now to address questions and work on projects and deal with whatever issues may arise, regardless of where we're at. Just because someone punches a clock does not mean they're working any harder than someone who is not on a specific time card. And as a manager, I need to be able to identify those who are contributing and those who aren't. And I would expect the city to be able to do the same.
So you're saying you don't need the office manager position now because you worked out the technology from working at home?
I am saying that I am continuing to evaluate our operational capabilities and identifying weaknesses and strengths and putting the right people in the right positions so that we can provide the best service that we can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything else. And I am going to go into City Hall and work on some other items that we're working on for tomorrow night's meeting.
So if I may, Mayor, is there anything else that you have claimed I have pushed under the rug? What you have referenced is different items that we have actually been discussed at commission meetings. Is there anything that has been pushed under the rug?
Correct. These are some of the items that you pushed under the rug underneath COVID-19. Now that COVID-19 is coming to a reopening process, I think that we'll have more of these political conversations that only make everybody better. And I sure hope that you'll attend those meetings. And I look forward to, I can't move your screen, but I look forward to hearing more about the pilot program. I look forward to.
I'm sorry, but so there are or there aren't items that have been.
There are many more, but I'm not going to use all the time up on this meeting. We'll do this next month.
Why not? Well, let's hear them.
No, I'm going to wait till next month. I want to, let's see how.
Well, Brad, we're here. This is a public meeting. You have the commission's attention.
And I'll wait.
Let's talk about it.
No, let's see. If I give you too many, you won't get through the 6. Let's see if you can get through the 6 items first. I said a half a dozen. Put it in an email.
I've got all day.
No.
I'm in no hurry.
Yep. Again, like I said, we'll wait and see how you guys work on these 6 items. There might be a 7th one in that email that we'll see if you guys address over that. But again, I'm just waiting for you guys to.
You're being ambiguous. What do you want to? What are you asking the commission to do?
Have you changed the deposit program for homeowners in our city yet?
We have not. Do you have a proposal for what we should be doing?
We had a proposal, Mr. Erickson, Ms. Shirks. I don't know if Greg was there at that time, but we had a proposal. It was out, and I thought you guys were going to approve it and make the adjustments, but you didn't make the adjustments. It got pushed under the rug, which is fine.
It did not get pushed under the rug. The next week, you raised yet another issue. Every couple of weeks, there's an email from you attacking something that the utility has done. It's really hard to focus when the city council does not have a list of what their top priority is. I'm just telling you, as you know, in running a utility and running any organization, you need to focus on one or two items at a time, but a constant redirection to various topics based off of whatever whim that might be out there, it prevents anything from happening.
But there's no whims. I mean, again, I gave you 6 items and now you want to have a dozen more, but you just said and contradicted yourself. Either you can work on these 2 items or 6 items, and
I'm asking, you said that there are items that have been pushed under the rug, and I would like to know what those are.
I just said one. Are you going to resolve the deposit issue for homeowners in our community? People who come here and want to use their cell phone bill. They want to be able to use their car insurance bill to use as an alternative process for the deposit. Will you make
so let's take that. My concern in using a cell phone bill is it is not tied to a permanent residence. With cell phones being as mobile as they are, I am not aware, let me be clear because I pick my words carefully. I am not aware of a utility that has used a cell phone bill as a credit check. You can throw out a lot of different ideas like that, but they all have implications, and we need to understand how that works and how that will affect defaults and non-payments.
They're homeowners. They own property in our city.
Okay, but you're referring to a cell phone bill.
Correct. As an alternative source of a utility. A phone bill is a utility.
You said a cell phone bill. A cell phone is not the same as a landline utility. There is a much higher mobility associated with that customer group. And I think we need to understand the risks that are associated with dropping one mechanism for another. All of these issues take some time to look into to understand what the consequences as well as the unintended consequences are of using different things. Some are riskier than others, and that is a question to be dealt with by the commission to understand what is the proper risk appetite that we have as a community for utility bill payments.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll just go back to you. This has been an ongoing issue for 6 months. This will go on the other list of items that I had worked on. And again, I don't want to overwhelm you because if you're inviting me back next month, I invite you to every one of our city council meetings. You can come and we can have this conversation in a city council meeting for things that happen in city government. You're invited. I don't need to make some special thing. You actually can have a seat at the table, Mr. Chairman, as soon as we open back up, so you could participate in every single city council meeting. It's every Thursday, 3 Thursdays a month, and you are free to come here. So again, this will go back down onto the list because if I give you too many things, it'll turn into this deposit debacle, which has taken over 6 months and not a single thing has changed. Nothing. And I don't need Mr. Butcher's response. Mr. Hansen, you were appointed to do the job. And I think you're doing a fantastic job. And the first step you'll do is you're going to be our elected official at the Southern Minnesota Power, because I think it should be you. You are the chairman. You should be making the decisions for our community. You should be pointing the directions of how our utility is going to operate and how we're going to treat people. Remember, Mr. Hansen, you're the chairman. You're the first chairman in the history of public utilities that has lived in the township. You have you are an incredible person. You have an incredible opportunity. Please do not.
Tim, you have your hand. I'm sorry, Tim, you have your hand
in there, Mr. Mayor.
Oh.
But let me address a couple things, Keith, before you jump in.
Yeah.
First of all, the matter of deposits is a thing unique to a lot of companies. Okay, people that rent properties take deposits. We take deposits because we're billing people in arrears. We want to cover a certain amount of risk. Several weeks ago, you were there And we went through the policy. Mr. Erickson, you maybe recall this meeting when we talked about another ratepayer that was having some issues with his deposit. Okay, and we talked about why we have it and why we were going to maintain it. We talked about perhaps in the future, once we get out a little ways, we could talk about it again to see if we still want to maintain the same levels and the same kind of policy. But at this point, we decided that we were going to maintain that deposit policy to ensure that the risk associated with putting people on Princeton public utilities was not being borne by the ratepayers that pay their bills every month, month in and month out. And that's what we decided. You were at that meeting. We discussed that policy with you, and you, sir, at that point said you agreed.
Correct.
I think this subject for the time being is closed.
I was saying for the homeowners, not the renters. I agree with you on the people who come to town that are just renting. They're just passing by. But I'm talking about bona fide homeowners who purchase properties in our city. That's where I had talked about it. And that's what the email said. There's a great family come into town and they told their whole story and you got to hear it. And you're going to, and again, I want to help you be successful. And if you guys want to deposit them and do everything else, it's just another voter for Mayor Brad Schumacher who says it's wrong. Because when you send them the thing that says $350, your power's going to be shut off. And I don't care about your, I'm not going to turn it on. That's up to you. But I'm talking homeowners versus renters, and there's difference in the policy. And you know that.
As it was mentioned in that prior conversation, we laid out specifically if they have concerns, they would call us. We have used letters of credit from other utilities to say, here, this is what we've got. And we've taken that into consideration. And I think we will continue to do that in the future. But for the time being, as you agreed, this is the correct policy to have.
The renters, correct.
Okay.
And again, I got 6 other items, but we'll work on them for next month. I'll be here next month if you guys invite me, and I look forward to that time because I want to see how you do on these other 6 items that I have, which I'll send the email list to Tim, the newspaper editor, because he asked for it. And I'll send it to him.
Tim, you have a question?
Right, Mayor, you mentioned that it's your list. When does it become the city's council list? When do they vote on it? You're one vote on the council. When are they going to get it? When are they going to vote on it? And you use the word political, all right? You've used it more than once. Is this a political conversation or is this an operational conversation or is this an election year conversation or what kind of conversation is it? Because I'm going to keep asking that from now until we get to November, okay? What is it?
This is an operational question. This is every one of these things that talked about operations. Operations. So go back to how the public utilities treats our fire department. Operational. Talk about North Branch Public Utilities. Operations. Schedule. How does a schedule work? How do we know when someone's on vacation at Princeton Public Utilities? Operations. Okay. And let's go back to the book. This is the book. This is about operations. Every one of these conversations about operations, there's nothing to do with political and election in this process. It comes back down to the same fact that you guys are not holding the general manager accountable to the ratepayers. And again, I'm not the one that sent the email on this customer trying to find Keith Butcher and then added me to the email later. I'm just saying I'm not the only one. And you guys can continue to say I am, and Mr. Erickson can say that I'm being degraded or the process because it's the same problems month and month. You guys won't address them. And that's all I'm saying. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. You do whatever you want anyway. It's fine with me. I can't do anything about it. I'm just happy when you show up, I guess, Mr. Butcher. That's, I guess, all I can say. I'm just glad you were here. I'm glad you were able to participate in whatever line item that was for our seniors, for the school district, and the townships. Remember, there's 6 townships that their kids are all on those photos too up there. And we as a community appreciate that. And we hope that you will come to our community more and work harder at being a participant in all of the departments because it's much larger than just utilities here in Princeton. We've got a great city. And if you stick around and come to town once in a while, you'll see that.
Tim, do you have a question?
Your Honor, so how not as a personal attack on somebody's reputation professionally, not politically motivated? Can you answer my question?
There's no attack on his, I said he's the smartest guy in the utility business that has there. When he comes here, he can answer every question. When he comes in front of our city council and has a joint meeting, Mr. Butcher has an amazing knowledge of utilities. We'd all like to hear more about it, but he can't. He has to come to the meetings. He has to show up so we can have that conversation and dialogue. But if he doesn't want to do that, it's fine. Has he ever been to Princeton Township? Have you met the town board of Princeton where you have utilities out in Princeton Township? Have you met our town board? Have you met the chairman of Princeton Township? And he's in the utility industry too. You and him would probably get along perfectly, but you've never met him. So unless you have, I don't know. Yeah, it's up to you. He's never met him. His name's Gene Stockel. He's a wonderful man. If you meet Gene Stockel, he's a really nice guy. He works at Elk River Municipal Utilities. And he's been there for, I'm not going to say how long, but a long time.
Anything else, Mr. Henniger?
No, I'm done, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 6B, SIMPA board meeting. Keith, you want to take it from there, please?
Yes. Let me just move a couple of things around here on my screen. So, and I've been including the key metrics from the SIMPA board meetings. Let me see if I can see. Where am I at here? I got the wrong. Are you seeing? I'm sorry. Do you see my screen right now? Is it still the agenda that's up?
No, it's the metrics sheet.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So yeah, just goes through SIMPA's key metrics. They put this out every month, just so folks are aware, of how their operations are changing over time. So that's in your packet. The last meeting was on May 7th. That meeting was held via Zoom, as the others have been. SIMPA has passed an invoice deferral resolution. The anticipation is if for some reason some utilities run into some problems regarding some cash flow issues, SIMPA is willing to help out its membership. So that went through. They provided updates on their solar initiative, their EV charger initiative, as well as direct load controls. They've been providing me with some updates on the COVID-19 impacts. SIMPA is expected to be back in their office starting June 1st. And then I've received other variations that they have seen on their system. When compared to the average 2015 to 2019 average, and this is not normalized for weather or other economic variables, due to their estimation for COVID-19 impacts on the SIMPA system is for March that they were down in consumption 2.3%. In April, they were down 7.9%. And for May, which is really the first week in May, they saw a decrease on the system of about 11.1%. What that means for SIMPA is that they've seen approximately a 7% budget reduction due to COVID-19. So those are reductions in sales through the entire membership. Their forecast going forward is that from June to September that they may continue to see a 4 to 6% reduction in income. From October through December, a 2 to 3%. For the year 2021, a 1 to 2% reduction. And then depending upon how long the pandemic lasts, anywhere from 0 to 1% reduction in 2022. So the reason I wanted to share that is the anticipation by many within the industry, and I think within the public health community, is that COVID-19 will continue to impact us for a long time. So I just wanted to kind of share those projections with you. That's what I had for the SIMPA board meeting.
Electric department updates.
In the generation plant, we're replacing a pump. The old pump has been removed and we're pouring a concrete footing for the new pump. And then we're also using that concrete to do some repair work on the back stoop. We're working on a new voltage regulator for engine number 5. And then we have completed our inspection of the 20,000 gallon fuel tanks that we have on site. and we're waiting for the final report on those. For the distribution system, we're continuing to do some underground work on West Branch Street and doing some additional underground service for some new homes that are being constructed in Princeton.
Okay, distribution system. Any water department updates? I know we.
The Fifth Street water main project has been going smoothly. We're collecting a back key sample today before we can put that line into service. We've received final notice that we've complied with our consumer confidence report. It was published in the Town and Country, and it is available on our website. Printed copies are available to customers upon request. We completed our spring flushing the week of April 13th. KLM has completed their inspection of the middle water tower, and we'll be doing some touch-up painting on that water tower Thursday to comply with our maintenance warranty requirements on the middle water tower. And Verizon has begun work on their equipment upgrade on the middle water tower today, I believe, this week at least. That's what I have for the water department.
Okay. City of Princeton update. 6E.
How's that? I think now you can hear me.
Yep, we got you, Bob.
Not too many things here. There's really not, it's been kind of slow with development activity. Evaluating the impact on the sewer, there's a few people that we've talked to that might have good cause for some type of credit. We're working towards the finalization of the federal EDA application for the Marshall property that we're looking at an industrial park. I see that's a topic you guys have on your agenda. What else do I have here? Oh yeah, we're working on the Riverside Reby Park that's going out to bid. One of the questions that came up in trying to see exactly what kind of gaps are there is, as I understand, the PUC or Princeton Utilities and SM and SIMPA have pledged some amount. Is it the full amount for those pollinator gardens, Keith, or what is it?
Oh, yeah, we'll be able to apply for a grant from SIMPA. I guess we haven't talked about that in a while. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I had
6,500. So that's why we're kind of just trying to see what we needed to cover. You know, there's a pretty big project. It's almost a $500,000 project for Reby and Riverside Park. So pretty much of a destination, converting it to a destination area for not only the city residents, but quite possibly a lot of metro people. So you say that you could probably look into that and maybe get back to us, or
well, yeah, like I said, I shared the information with Stephanie in that email. I don't remember off the top of my head what the number was, but SIMPA was all in favor of working with us to provide a grant for some pollinator plants.
Was the amount determined?
I believe it was, but again, I haven't, you know, it's not something we've talked about in a while, so I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. There's many opportunities at the park. One of the things that's being talked about is the fire ring. It's going to be kind of interesting. I'm not sure if this is because this was Indian territory or what, but something that would have a bunch of large rock benches that would be around a fire ring, double ring, and I guess it depends how big the fire gets as to whether it'll be on the inside or the outside of the ring. Not sure if we should say that when the fire department's on, but lots of wood out there. But we're looking, that could be a really nice thing to sponsor, and trying to get some naming rights to that, somewhere in that low teens range. So that's another good project if someone wants to sponsor. So that's about all I have right now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barbian. 6F, General Manager's report. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, a few different things. We did have our auditors here from May 19th through May 21st. That went well. Our EIA 861 report has been filed. We're currently working on our Minnesota Department of Commerce's Conservation Improvement Program report, which is due June 1. We're working with SIMPA on that. And then I'm working on the Minnesota Department of Commerce's annual utility report, which will be due July 1st. So all of those are in progress. Did want to report that there was an allegation concerning Princeton Public Utilities that was filed with the police department. We cooperated fully with that investigation, and the police concluded that the claim was unfounded and closed the case. Staff did participate in a fire call on 5/6, which was about 25 minutes for a medical. We helped start the generator at the wastewater treatment plant and donated our used AED pads to the fire department for trainings. In addition, our staff assisted in an accident response on 5/19. We had 6 individuals out there in 2 trucks to help hold up a private pole so emergency personnel could attend to the patient. We've completed our annual roof inspections on 5/19 and no repairs are needed at this time. A full report will be issued later. We did
cutting out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll slow down and speak into the speaker maybe.
Okay, sorry about that. Thanks, Bob, for letting me know. What was the last thing you guys heard? You want me to start over or?
No need to start over. Just continue.
Okay.
With,
okay, will do.
Utility.
So I mentioned our annual roof inspections were completed on 5/19. No repairs are needed at this time. A full report will be issued later. We held our first infrastructure meeting with Bob Barbian and Bob Gerald on Tuesday, May 26th. The primary topic was a discussion regarding the city's process for building permits, especially as it related to more of your typical residential infills and building permit applications and how that information is shared with the utilities. CW has started on our email migration to a Microsoft Exchange server on Tuesday, May 19th, and that is underway. We are planning to restart our AMI meter conversions on June 1st. And then as far as this meeting goes, we are streaming on Facebook Live. What I would like to do for next month is try to switch that to a YouTube channel for next month's meeting, since not everybody might have a Facebook account. I know the city already does that. I think that's a great idea. So I'm going to try to get that set up for next month's meeting, if that makes sense to the commission. And that's all I have.
I want to just back up for a second. You made mention of the AE pads that we donated.
Yes.
In case everybody doesn't know this, the defibrillator pads that are used for the what do you call that thing? They help me out with the words here, Keith. It's the automatic defibrillator machines that they use for people that are having heart attacks. Those pads have a expiration date of sorts. So when we have an extra set or not an extra set, but when we have a set that's expired, we of course replace them so we have new and current ones. The expired ones are handy for people that are in training to use as samples. They can be used for that very effectively. And so it's not just a matter of we donated these to the fire department this time. As a matter of fact, this is what we do usually. If we have extra ones, we pass them along to somebody that can use them for training and get some use out of them rather than just pitch them in the recycle bin or what have you. So I think that's an ongoing thing. And I think it's pretty cool that the fire department's able to use that stuff to good end. So kudos on that one. And I hope we can keep that up. Unfinished business, Mr. General Manager.
Excuse me, Greg, could I just ask a quick question, please?
Sure, please.
As far as the website, which by the way, I really, really like the Public Utilities website. You guys did a great job on that.
Thank you.
I know that all of the agendas and the meeting minutes and everything are posted on there. And I'm just wondering if there is a thought of posting all of the live videos as well. Is that an option?
Good question. You know, I did ask that for the web host. What they suggested, and this goes back to what I would like to do for next month, is actually create a YouTube channel for Princeton Public Utilities. Because of the data requirements, they felt it would be better to create a YouTube channel, post all the videos there. We can do links to everything at that point. But rather than hosting the raw video feed online, to really use the YouTube platform. So by switching over to that, I think it'll make everything more accessible. But yeah, I want to come up with a way to better link the videos to our website. And that's what I want to try out over the next month and see if I can get that working.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. That's a good idea, and it'd be cool to put it on the website so that they could go back historically and say, here's May, here's April, here's March, whatever. Pull up the ones that they may have missed. You know, there's a lot of excitement here. Anyway, unfinished. Any other unfinished business?
No, sir.
New business, 8A.
Well, this was brought up. We currently, for the SIMPA representative position, we currently have me being the primary representative. SIMPA does like to have an alternate representative defined so that if the primary representative is unable to attend, that the alternate can attend in their place and vote on any membership issues that may arise. Currently, the alternate representative is assigned to Mindy Sirks. She is obviously no longer on the commission. I think it would be good for the electric superintendent to be appointed as the alternate representative. This is up to the commission as to what you folks want to do, but we do need to assign somebody formally to that position, and I'll need a motion on whoever you decide.
I'd like to make that motion if I might. I have attended a SIMPA meeting with Mr. Butcher, and it very quickly escalates into kilowatts and transmission lines and what's a distribution line, and if it's a megawatt or kilowatt, and I'm quickly out of my water. So I'm glad that Mr. Butcher is sitting there to understand all the electric questions. Given that, I think Ryan would make an excellent choice as an alternate because he understands the intricacies of moving electricity around the grid. And so I'd like to make a motion to make Ryan our alternate delegate to the SIMPA meeting.
I agree with you, Greg. I think we need someone there that has some expertise. I think it would better serve our ratepayers. And so I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion is carried. COVID-19 update, 8B.
Yeah, I wanted to go through a few different things on that. Just to recap some of our policy changes. We have continued to suspend our disconnections for the moment. And working with customers on arranging payment plans that work within their budget. As we move on further and further, utilities are continuing to evaluate disconnections and looking at arrears and trying to find the best way forward while still doing whatever we can to assist the community. My understanding is there's going to be a discussion on Friday with a large group of municipal utilities to kind of see what other folks are doing. From the results of that meeting, I would like to take a look and see what, if anything, we want to do regarding our disconnections going forward. At this time, I'm not suggesting any changes. I just wanted to point out that we still are suspending those disconnects. We are continuing to waive late fees, and that's probably something else that we want to continue to look at, and I would appreciate the commission's guidance. I believe that the city may start looking into whether they want to continue to waive those late fees. As far as I know, there has not been a decision made on that, but I expect that those conversations are continuing. I guess I'm looking towards the commission to see what you folks think about continuation of the waiver of those late fees. And to put it in context, I'll let you know that for the late fees waived in May, on the electric side, it was just under $4,000. On the water side, it was just under $900. On the sewer side, it was about $1,300 for a total waiver of just over $6,000 in late fees that were waived last month. Bob, you have a question?
I just, one of the things that we don't see in there is whether or not the late fees are because it's 1, 2, or 100 customers, and whether those customers that are late, whether that amount keeps growing month after month after month. In other words, are they paying, are they, how many months behind are they? It's a concern. that if somebody's not making some efforts to pay, that we're
Correct.
creating a problem for some of our customers. And I know that this is a concern that I would have about the policy of waiving late fees. It's not that we're trying to collect money, but we do want them to be making payment.
Yes, and those are exactly the concerns within the industry as well. We don't want those numbers to get too big to where people can't ever recover from.
And that's all relative to who the person is. So do you
Yeah.
have a number of months that people haven't paid? I mean, is there some people who haven't paid for 2 months or 3 months?
I would have to go back and run the numbers. I don't have that off the top of my head. I am concerned that there are some customers who are falling further behind than others.
I think that's something we want to look into, Keith. It's not just a matter of dollars. I think it's a matter of accounts as well. We need to make sure that we're not getting some people in deeper trouble than they already might be.
Okay, so it would help me to know, is there a particular metric that would help the commission? Is there a certain way to look at the data that would, I mean, I've got a lot of data. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to present it to you to provide you with the information you're looking for.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple things I'm thinking about. I mean, for sure, the affected businesses, like the restaurants that haven't been able to open. That's one of the things I'm really concerned about. It's hard to know how long this is going to last, or have you heard what anybody else is looking at in the utilities across the state?
It's all over the map. There are some utilities who are anticipating probably not resuming disconnections until next summer. There are others who are looking at, maybe July that they would start on with some disconnections and start implementing late fees. I think a lot of it depends upon each individual community, the share of residential to commercial to industrial, kind of the economic impacts. Obviously, areas that might depend more on tourism could be getting hit harder than areas that may be more of a bedroom community. So I think it does vary. And I think it's something that we got to kind of look at all of it and see what makes sense for us. And I'm not quite sure right now. That's why I'm happy to kind of pull together whatever data we think is valuable and decide a way going forward. Bob.
So Dan, I think from the water standpoint, which is your utility, and electric, some of those entities that have cut their businesses down because of not being able to be open or for various reasons, they might be slower. They're based on usage, so it's really not that slowdown, other than they're not generating enough cash to even pay minimum payments. Maybe that might be a concern, but I'm more concerned about the situation it's creating for as concerned about the residents for both sewer, I guess our area is sewer, and that if we're letting somebody go without paying for 3 months, that is not a very good situation, and we're not giving them any incentive to pay. I would not be in favor of shutting off if they were making regular payments of the amounts that they're using, and without allowing them to have time to catch up, because it might be hard for some people. Regarding the sewer on some of those businesses, that's a city issue that we're dealing with.
Yeah. And I was just had a thought here, even, before anybody ever heard of COVID, our late fees every month averaged around $4,000 approximately.
Oh, I don't have that. I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Yeah.
Like I said, the late fees that we waived in May were $6,000. And that's for all 3 utilities.
1 second.
So that would be up about probably around 50% higher than normal, I would guess, without having the numbers.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable if I can run the numbers and give you the exact number.
Yeah, I know, I know. I guess I would like to still wait before we start reinstating the late fees.
Okay.
You know, the governor's plan is just in phase 2, which is still pretty restrictive, and we don't have floods of people going back to work, although they seem to be trickling. I think waiting just a little bit, getting some input from some others, but keeping in mind the kind of community that we have, I think it's probably prudent to put this off, see what the governor's plan is going to look like, phase 3, and start thinking about it then. I think, you know, Councilor Gerald, maybe you can broach this at a council meeting, what the council would prefer to do on the sewer side, if they have any thoughts, or they just want to kind of roll with what the utility is doing. I think it's something that deserves a little bit of thinking before we.
I'm sorry, I missed that, Greg Hansen. Could you, and I was sorry I got an interruption. Could you mention that again where you talked about sewer fees and something about the council?
I'm sorry, Bob, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I missed what you were saying about the council and sewer fees.
I was saying, I think the city council does a great job with sewer fees. Wasn't that what I said?
I thought so.
What I was saying was, I asked Councilor Gerald that maybe this is something could be brought up at a council meeting to see if they want to change anything they're doing. I think it behooves us as a utility to hold off, and you know, there's going to be some changes as the governor's plan goes into phase 3. Given the nature of our community, a lot of people that live in Princeton are working elsewhere. Some are getting back to work, some are not. And so we want to take some of those things into consideration before we make a change. I think
and as I expressed before, Mr. Hansen, is the city is addressing the sewer bills for those that some might say are a little bit in excess of the amount they're using. And we're addressing that issue, and I've gotten direction from the council. As far as the late fees, as I've expressed to this meeting, to the commission, and to Keith separately, we are concerned, there is concern about these late fees, and I see this something as something that's probably not a good policy to continue.
Well, and great, but I think it's important that we all keep in contact, because as you know, it's the utilities that manages the sewer bills for the community. So we want to make sure that
we almost did not extend the renewal of the waiving of the late fees. If that gives you more indication of where we're going.
Okay. Well,
could you say that again, Bob? I didn't hear that.
We almost did not extend the waiving of the late fees.
Almost did not?
Correct. We had to extend it because we had it in place until, what was that date, Keith? April 15th?
Yes.
Oh, well, no, it was May 12th, wasn't it?
Oh,
it was the May one that, it's just this last one that you did an extension on.
That's correct. And I think the key matrix really is there people that have been not paying, or is they're 3 months behind? That's a concern.
We do have some people whose arrears are starting to grow. Not a lot.
About the amount, I'm talking about how many months.
I don't have that number in front of me.
Well, it's how many months, how many customers. So.
Yeah. Well, that should tell you, give you a good idea of what direction the city is at.
I missed part of that, Bob.
Well, I think those comments should give you a pretty good idea of where we're at with sewer fees.
Okay. Well, we just want to keep in touch so we're all on the same page, I guess is what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, I'm sure, Greg, that it's something that we'll keep discussing and decide how long we want to keep carrying it on. I think what Bob's trying to get across is that there is some concern about people getting in so deep that they can't get out. And then the fact that we're not sure if it's the same customers each month and it just keeps piling up, or if it's new people kind of thing is basically what our concerns are.
Yeah, well, I think those are legitimate concerns, and like as you already we need to take a look at what we're using for metrics and make sure that we know a little more detail other than just the gross dollars about what's going on there. We may have to intervene in some places.
And Jenny, it would help me if you could, give me some ideas of the kind of data you would be looking for. If you could shoot me a couple, an email with some metrics so I can try to answer those questions in the best way that I can. I'm really, I could use some guidance as to how you want to look at the data and how the city council wants to look at the data.
Okay.
Continuing on, still regarding COVID-19 impacts, one of the other items that we have done is we have waived the minimum charges for our small commercial rate. Just to recap, the small commercial rate is for customers between 25 kW and 1,000 kW. We currently had charged a minimum demand charge on those based on the 25 kW. However, this is the customer class that includes those restaurants and actually primarily churches that have closed during COVID-19. So what we did is we just changed that one billing rate schedule so that it's billed based on actual as some temporary relief until we can return to normal billing practices as things begin to reopen. So that should help address the restaurant closures that have occurred and help those businesses that have done a lot of work to reduce their load and try to minimize their costs as they try to navigate the current environment. I do have some general metrics on our reporting stuff, but like I said, I'm happy to break this out into more detail for however people want to look at it. For this month, if I compare our metrics to last year, we actually saw a decrease in what would have been disconnections by about 10.5%, which was 19 accounts. The increase in the amount of uncollected payments went up 40%, which is about $16,500. And we've seen an increase in the amount of payment plans of about 82%, which is almost $3,000. So obviously there's always some variability in the numbers, but we're managing that as best we can. Already went through the late fee waivers that we've done. In regards to looking at consumption impacts due to the stay-home order, when looking at our 2020 year-to-date numbers to a 2015-2019 average for Princeton, these are our simplest numbers just for our community. In April, we saw a reduction of about 5.8%. And then for, basically that first week in May, we're down 9.8%. So we are seeing a reduction in our revenues due to the COVID-19 impacts. So those are some high-level numbers. I'm happy to work to break those out more and more to help the commission decide an appropriate way forward.
I'm going to move on to C, Keith, 8C, Princeton Business Park engineering costs.
Bob is offline. I was hoping to discuss this with him here. I did want to mention to the commission that the city has requested, there he is. City has requested that Princeton Public Utilities provide a quote for electric services to the Princeton Business Park. This Princeton Business Park is not within our electric service territory. And I am concerned because I do not know if the city council would support, would make a statement supporting Princeton Public Utilities acquiring that service territory. So I wanted to bring that before the commission to see your thoughts on incurring some engineering costs for the business park.
Is the city council asking us to attach that business park area as part of our service area?
No, we're not.
Oh,
The council has not discussed it. Right now, what I'm working on is completion of the federal EDA grant application. And as part of that process, I need to put down exactly what we're applying for and what it's going to cover, what it's going to be used for. One of those, for example, as I explained it to Keith, one of those is like water, the water loop there. Water is pretty basic engineering, and I have somebody who's already given me the information for that, or the cost, and who has prepared like the amount of T's and fire hydrants and things such as that, and the right size, and the cost as it's in the ground. So I have that estimate already, but now I'm looking for one. If this territory is going to be in the served by Princeton utilities, certainly you would have a leg up if you were able to obtain some of the funding to put the infrastructure in place. You would be eligible to receive part of that through the city, but I need to know how much to apply for. Keith has provided me a number in an email that basically was 4 or 5 topics, and quoted a number of 70,000 for the materials, and I need more than just 70,000 for the materials. I need to know like what materials, how many, what's included in the 70,000. I guess the 70,000 doesn't include any labor. So I don't know if that means it's another 500,000 or another 50,000. So something a little more accurate and with some of the details, so that an engineer can say, yeah, this looks reasonable. And as to whether or not you need to, it sounds like Ryan's pretty experienced, to be quite honest. He'd come up with the 70 from what I understand. I don't know how many transformers or switch gear or things like that, or how many feet it is, but that's really what's needed. Now, if you need to go to an outside firm to get it, I guess maybe it's the cost of doing business. If you can do it locally, that's fine. I just need more detail, or internally, I should say.
Well, obviously there's a cost to doing those kinds of projections.
Well, there is sometimes, unless you have the internal staff that can do it. And it sounds like Ryan has quite a bit of knowledge if it's 70,000 for materials. So all I asked again was for more of the detail. And as far as whether it's your territory or not, or the council's willing to bless it, right now, there's really not enough information. Rates are important, and what's the cost of the infrastructure? I would believe that if a substantial amount of this infrastructure is paid for, you're going to have a leg up. But if we don't include it in the grant application, you're not going to have that leg up on getting the territory.
Well, I'm concerned that we're going to spend a lot of time and effort to set up East Central Electric or Excel Energy or somebody else to provide power to the business park. If the city council,
how would it provide them? I don't understand why your work would have anything to do with East Central.
Who has the electric utilities in that business park now?
The Aero Business Park, which is 21st Avenue, is served by Princeton Utilities.
It's East Central over there.
The Marshall property would be currently East Central territory, correct?
Okay, so what I'm concerned about is that we put Keith and Ryan out there in the field, spend a lot of time and effort, and then East Central winds up with the billing authority to go out and collect money from those folks, and we don't. That seems like a poke in the eye. So, but on the other hand, if the city is interested in having us supply electricity out there, then that's a whole nother discussion. And I think the commission needs to start thinking about what's it going to take to do this. East Central is not going to just say, okay, never mind, just take our wires and our transformers and hook it up. There's got to be a negotiation process and everything else, and that's oftentimes expensive, and it needs a lot more analysis.
Well, I guess that's up to you guys if you need more analysis, but I mean, the grant is going to be submitted, and then it would be all have to be installed at your cost. So, I mean, that'd be a shame. That would put the industry, I would expect at a disadvantage.
Well, I think this is one of those discussion points that we need to have when we're having the development conversations or something like that, where we can sit down and work through the individual details of what has to happen to make this work. So I'll leave that up to.
Well, I should let you know that the applications needs to go in soon, and it's, you know, I mean, this would give you a leg up by being able to obtain a substantial amount of the cost of the infrastructure that would in fact be to your benefit,
Yeah.
to your cost benefit.
Well, I think we need a little more detail in order to go forward with that. Hopefully we can, development group was meeting how often, Bob?
Next time they meet, we have nothing to talk about on this. It's really up to the public utilities as to whether you wish to do anything. The application's going to be submitted within a couple of weeks. It's up to you guys.
Could I ask a question? I'm just curious if Ryan has an idea of about how much of his time would be involved to give Bob the additional information that he's looking for. Ryan, can you just top of your head let everybody know about how much time you think would be involved in that?
I've got probably 3 to 4 hours into it right now. It's going to depend on material costs, how far we take the developing, how far do you want to take it? Do you want to provide power to each lot on the map? I see the map changed. That I would have to ask before I could get details. We have to provide power to each lot and have it ready for a 3-phase customer. It's going to be quite a different price into the.
You still there, Ryan? Or
I'm here.
Okay.
Well, now if we were going to have a meeting to discuss those items, that would be, we'd have a special meeting for that.
Okay.
And I'd be ready to do that anytime because it's time sensitive. And those details are pretty easy. You know, we can't, this is stuff the commission doesn't need to be involved with, but if you know, if it's going to be, for example, the transformer for that exact customer, that becomes their transformer, if I understand correctly. And if that's the case, then that would not be able to be covered.
Correct, but you still need to have the basic infrastructure to provide it there, the availability at each lot.
Right. Well, if that's talking about switchgear, that then could be included. So those are the things I'd be happy to sit down with at any time. But
okay.
But again, I guess it's up to you guys as to whether or not you want to. I mean, that number, whatever your quote is, it's no good to East Central anyways, Greg, just for your information.
Let's find a time, Keith, to discuss this with Ryan and see what's involved, and also see what would be involved if we were to try to take on that business park area.
One thing I would say is that the city's intent to make the improvements is based upon receiving a grant. And, you know, if it happens quick, great. If not, it could be something that takes a little while.
A lot of things to think about there.
So could I ask a question, Bob? You're just simply looking for a number. Is that my understanding correct?
Well, the engineer and the specifics that have to be submitted, I mean, for example, road. We have to specify what kind of road, what kind of materials. We have to specify what type of length we're looking at. We have to have reasonable cost associated with it. So I'm looking for what would be typically contained in a bid. It wouldn't be just 70,000 plus labor. It wouldn't be just, it's going to be 140,000. It would have what's included.
Are those details specified in the grant application form?
I don't really know, but that's what the engineer in the end has to sign off, and that's what we're looking for every other aspect in it. Most of the aspects he's knowledgeable enough to put the info together.
So there's nothing in the application request providing the level of detail needed at this. We're just guessing what the engineer wants to see.
No, no, I know what the engineer. He's told me what he wants.
Bob, would it be possible for the engineer to be at least involved in the next meeting that could give the PUC direction of exactly what they need?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think that would help a lot.
Mm-hmm. Let's move that direction if we can. That's a good suggestion, Jenny. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be nice to help, and I guess there is no guarantee of what direction it would go with the power, but I would think that the city, with their interest in increasing the pilot program, would want to expand territory. I know the Elk River Public Utilities gets quite a large pilot program, and they have a much larger commercial base for their electrical ratepayers.
Okay. Anything else on that?
Yeah, if you want to just get me a time and date when you're ready, let me know.
Okay, will do.
8D, Delta. Keith, you want to give us an update there?
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted to give an update. We continue to have lots of good conversations with the owners. Those have all gone very well regarding the new golf course clubhouse and brew pub. We've made a lot of progress on that. The customer will be utilizing the southern route regardless of whether we are able to do the loop extension or not. We've got some incremental numbers for doing the loop extension, which, when I get some of those finalized, hopefully by the next meeting, I'll be able to go through the hard numbers. The total project, is significant for the developer. He is asking if we could assist a little bit and as an economic development opportunity for the community. The nice thing is with this project going in, it would help us remove one of the biggest dead ends that we have on our system, would provide some benefits for other customers as well as for the brew pub in terms of reliability, because if we can loop it, they could get water from two different directions, so it reduces potential outages. So, if we were going to do it on our own, the cost would be prohibitive, and even if we didn't do it now and decided to go back later, I think it would still be cost prohibitive. So we do have an opportunity here, I think, to connect some lanes. We're still talking with the developer on what that allocation might look like. So I will share those with you when we have something to share. But in the meantime, I just want to let everyone know that project has been moving forward just fine. The engineer and the developer and Princeton Public Utilities have had a great partnership as we move forward, and I expect that to continue.
Good deal. When do you think you'll have hard numbers on that?
I'm hoping at our next meeting.
When do you expect that to be, Keith?
Our next meeting would be June, I'm just looking here.
What,
24th.
Okay.
Our next PUC meeting.
Got it. Okay. Want to talk a little bit about 8E, our class project?
Yeah, it was a great project. We worked with the senior party committee on that. The banners were installed on Tuesday, so yesterday, May 26th. And then we're planning on removing those banners the week of June 15th. So they'll be up for about 3 weeks. All the feedback that I've been hearing has been very positive. We've received just very complimentary emails asking, just thanking us for our cooperation and working with all the parties involved to continue to move that forward. I think it was a great project for the community. I think it really brought a lot of folks together and really brought some attention and recognized a senior class that has faced some unique challenges this year. So it was good to acknowledge them. As part of that, we contributed our time and resources to put the flags up, put those banners up all over town. I am aware that they are still looking for a little bit of a financial contribution to cover their full costs. So I wanted to just see if the commission would be interested in donating $2,000 to that banner project to just kind of put them over the finish line and take care of everything that needed to be done for this effort.
I will make that motion to provide the additional $2,000 to the senior party committee. Open for a second.
Dan, you're muted. Dan, there you go.
Yeah. Trying to drown out the background music while the truck's rolling in and out. So,
so that was you. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I got my windows open. It's a little warm out today. Yeah, I think it was a great community project, and like the mayor had mentioned, it reaches beyond our ratepayers in our city and and into the various townships. And it was nice of us to be able to do that. And I know, it's a time where we're really trying to be conservative financially, but I think this was the time to do it. So I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion was passed. I would like to add one of the things I noticed in reviewing this is that we also got some help from Bob Gerald and the folks at Public World trimming some trees. So some of those pictures were kind of hidden in the bushes there. So we got a little help from the city on that too. It's a great project, and it was great that everybody could pull together to make this happen. I think the kids ought to be proud of the community that got behind them, and maybe they'll get to keep their pick at the end of all this, and it'll be something they can remember from 2020. So thank you all for that. Pilot work group 8F Foxtrot. Keith.
Yeah, the city has created a work group to start a dialogue regarding pilot. The city attendees are Jules Zimmer, Bob Barbian, and Steve Jackson. So then in terms of PUC attendees, we would need to have somebody join in that work group so we can start a dialogue regarding that issue. The initial conversations was to have myself and have Greg be the attendees. I'd like the commission's thoughts on that. And then we are looking at trying to set up our first meeting date. But first, just wanted to mention about the work group and see who the commission thinks should be in attendance at that meeting.
Well, I really don't have the time right now to be on that. And so I guess I would recommend that Greg Hansen be appointed to that.
Well, thanks for that kind of underwhelming vote of confidence. But yes, I'd be happy to be there. I think it's important that we start that. I'm glad to do that.
I hope you don't take it that way.
Okay, do we need a motion for that, Keith, or how should we best handle that?
Yeah, let's do a motion. Just make it official.
I'll make a motion to appoint Chairman Greg Hansen to that work group.
And I'll second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Same sign.
And then is it your wish that I would be involved as well, Greg?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we are, I did have a conversation with Councilor Zimmer on this. We had kicked out the idea of having a meeting this Friday. Bob, I don't know, has anybody talked to you about that? Would that date work for you? You're muted. Bob, you're muted.
Let me just check. I thought it was mentioned next week. Hold on.
Yeah, I believe Councilor Zimmer is out of town next week.
Just give me a minute.
And I'll be out of town the week after. So if we could do it, and maybe this first meeting would be kind of a preliminary to decide about when the next meeting would be and what subjects we want to address and so forth. So it wouldn't need to get terribly involved. It would kind of lay a framework for moving forward during these next few months.
Okay, could I ask, see, I had in my calendar for the 1st, which is Monday. Did you say that Jules was out of town Monday?
That is my understanding. He is unavailable next week.
And what time did you propose for Friday, basically 2 days from now?
10 o'clock.
Is Jules available?
Yeah, we talked about either 9 or 10. I mean, I think the morning would work best.
Okay. If we can, let's do it at 9 then.
Okay. Do you want to connect with Jules or should I?
I can.
Okay. All right. So let me know if that works for him.
Oh, I guess
For
you said Steve too. Well, maybe it does. Maybe it is better at 10 o'clock. I'm not even sure Steve's in. I have to double check to make sure that time will work. But then let's just go for the 10 o'clock like was planned initially.
Okay.
I can't tell you if it'll work right now.
Okay.
I assume somebody will let me know.
Yes. As soon as I know, you'll know, Greg.
Good one. All right. 8G. Utility.
Yeah. So this, excuse me. This is to just kind of get some commission feedback regarding our utility billing system. We've run into a lot of different issues regarding public perceptions and customer concerns. And I know this has been talked about over time, but typically people, when they get their Princeton Public Utilities bill, they'll say their electric is really high, or even though it constitutes 3 different utilities, and that sometimes can skew perceptions as to what is being used for what. So I know Dan wanted to start a conversation as to whether we want to look at start splitting our billing to do electric separate from water and sewer. Dan, would you like to talk about your ideas for a little bit, or talk about this issue or question?
Sure. Can you hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, when I applied to be on the Public Utility Commission, I stood in front of the council and I stated that one of my main goals was to help change the public perception of Princeton Public Utilities. And I know a lot of it had to do with the last election, and at least that had to do with bringing it to light. But even before that, being a property owner in the city of Princeton, I have about 30 or 40 apartment units that I rent out. When we would advertise those, I would see a lot of feedback saying that the Princeton Public Utilities rates are the highest in the United States, which is not true. Or you'd hear that we were the highest in the area, which also is not true. And I believe that the reason that people can't see that is because their bill is all one. Their bill is electric, water, and sewer. So you can't really compare it. Now we can send out rate sheets, and we've talked about it. People can try to do comparisons, but until they actually get an electric bill on its own, I don't think we're ever going to change that perception where they can, compare that from if they move from out of town or out of the city to into the city. Like, well, my electric bill was $100 when I lived out of the city. They moved into the city, and now it's $200 in their mind, even though it's not, because they have water and sewer and franchise fees and everything else that's might be on there. So I would like to split those bills into electric and a bill for water and a bill for sewer. And I think that would also help address some of the issues with deposits. The deposits could be lower. Some people don't use both water and electric. Some ratepayers are just electric ratepayers. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Greg?
I agree that the perception out there in the public is that Princeton public is expensive. The times that I've done some digging, compared some of my neighbors' bills to mine, if I can twist their arm to give me a recent copy and stuff, I see that we're very competitive, not cheaper than many of my neighbors out here. But I'm in an unusual situation in that I don't get the water bill or the sewer bill because I'm just outside. When I lived in town, I was shocked at my electric bill because it was so much higher than my electric bill in Nebraska. But that was exactly because the electric bill in Nebraska was the electric bill. It didn't include anything else. And so it took me a while and some explanations from the lovely ladies in our office that, oh yeah, I get it. Water and sewer. And so separating those things somehow, I think would be advantageous. Again, it's how you get that message out to the public, and actually separating the billing. That's a matter, and in today's electronics, with everything's handled by a computer, I suppose it's a matter of throwing a switch someplace and we can cut 3 bills instead of 1. Then I guess you have mailing expenses and office expenses and some other things to think about. And if you're going to split them, do we still need to do the city bills, or how would that affect things going forward? So I think there's. I
would like to.
Go ahead, Dan.
Sorry. I guess I wouldn't mind seeing the city bill for the sewer on a city bill, because that's another thing that people don't necessarily understand, that that's not part of the PUC. We have I was looking at some of the Facebook comments even after the last council meeting, and one of them said, I'll just read it. City council members, can we look at getting a different utilities company in Princeton? Princeton Public Utilities is much more expensive and have more fees than other energy companies. And that comment is liked by the mayor of the city. So even the mayor doesn't really understand that we're not much more expensive than the others. So if our own council members and mayor don't understand where our rates are at compared to our other companies in the area, that's a problem with perception. And the reality is different than our perception.
Right. It's a complicated thing, and it's going back to my old college days at Marshall McLuhan. Perception becomes the reality. So the perception is we're expensive, so people don't want to come here because they perceive this by Facebook or whatever, Twitter or whatever you have out there in social media saying Princeton's expensive, when in fact, it's just not. It's very, very competitive. And so, you know, how we manage that perception, I think, is incumbent on us as the commission to find a way to make sure people understand that your bill reflects not just your electricity, but it affects your water usage and the sewer bill for the city. So whether sending 3 bills is the way to approach it or not, I think we need to look at that. I think we need to look at the costs of that and what the implications would be for the city. If we ask the city to all of a sudden, you should take care of this, we're going to try to streamline things. We'll let the city take care of the sewer billing so they can deal with it directly.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to amount to some pushback, but it also makes it more clear to the ratepayers / citizens of the city that this is where their money's going and this is what the cost is for those utilities that are provided. I think there's a great deal, and Councilor Gerald, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but I think there's a number of citizens of the city of Princeton that don't really realize that the city provides sewer usage for the community, that there's a lot of costs involved with that you have your own water treatment plant, you have a staff and a management team that takes care of that. And there are costs involved with that, but I think the perception is it's all Princeton Utilities' fault, if you will. And actually, the city of Princeton puts a lot into that to provide that for this community. It's just like providing water. We got good clean water here. We can just go drink out of any tap in the city. But they can also flush their toilets and not worry about it. And you can't do that every place. So I think that it needs some further discussion. But I think it's you know, probably time to start having some of that.
Yeah,
oh, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I agree, Greg, there is some confusion there and there always has been. And kind of the same with Dan is one of the things that was brought to my attention when I was thinking about running for city council was the electric. And one of the things that I wanted to accomplish for the residents too was to make sure that we were competitive. And that was done shortly after I got on city council. I think the PUC did a rate comparison and explained a lot of questions and a lot of concerns that a lot of people had. And I wish it was something that we could do more often because I think it would be great to remind people of those things. But I understand there's some difficulty with doing that. But as far as if you guys want to send out separate bills, I don't think it would need to be 3 different mailings. It could be, you know, maybe we do electric on one and then water and sewer on a separate, because water and sewer, it kind of makes sense for people for those 2 to be together. And maybe those 2 separate bills could still go in the same envelope together and not, you know, create more mailings and more postage and all of those things, but could actually have an electric bill and then a water sewer bill in the same envelope would maybe be a possibility. I think if we do 3 separate billings, there's going to be some confusion. Do they have to write 3 separate checks? Do they write 2 checks to the PUC and 1 to the city? I think that would really maybe make things even a little more confusing to them, but I understand the thought process behind it because it is confusing for people. And when you add them all up, it looks like there's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where we need to, do you have any thoughts, Dan, on what you want to do from here? Or is this something we need to have a discussion on, maybe a work group meeting to discuss how this might work and where we might go going forward?
Yeah, I guess, you know, I agree with both of you, Councilor Gerald and you about the confusion possible with getting 3 different bills. But I think we can also work towards going paperless.
I did. And I think we ought to
I pay 5 or 6.
We are now.
One of them is.
Yeah, Dan, you're kind of cutting in and out a little bit. I think I lost part, at least I did. I lost part of what you were saying. If you could recap that.
I think we should also at the same time look at going paperless with our billing.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to do that. And if people aren't sure, there are people in our office that can help you walk through that. They did it for me and it works flawlessly. So I think we just need to make people aware that that's a possibility. And maybe we need to do a promotion of some sort, go wireless and get a bonus or get a free letter opener from the Princeton Public Utility. I think Cindy's got some more of those in her drawer. But I think it's worth promoting we send out stuff in the bill each and every month that says, here's a flyer from Simpa, here's this, and here's that. And, we do a pretty good job of stuffing envelopes for the city as well. We might just seize that opportunity and say, look, if you haven't thought of this, here's the way to do this. It's slick, it's easy, and it's relatively painless. We can give you an email every month to let you know this bill is coming up, that this is going to be deducted from your account, or it's time to send in a check or whatever. We have a lot of possibilities, in addition to which on our new website, all of that history is there, and you can do it right from the website if you want as well. So there's a lot more opportunity for that today than there's ever been. And I think we need to promote that and position ourselves as being paperless. I love not having paper. And I think we should promote that. And so that's a note to you, Keith Butcher. We need to work on maybe doing some kind of a promotion out there so that we make people aware of that possibility and the ease of doing it with the staff that we have, because they are awesome when it comes to that kind of thing, no matter who they get.
Will do.
Yeah, I think one of the things that one of the ratepayers had mentioned, that just from a mental standpoint, if your bill is smaller and they are coming at different times during the month, it just seems a lot easier to pay, whether it actually is or not. And I do think, we can put all the flyers and handouts we want, but, this has been going on for probably 3 years that I've been seeing this. And just last Thursday, we still have someone saying we're the highest around, and the mayor agreeing with that, liking that comment. So I really think it's just time, it's going to be hard, and change is hard, but I think it's going to make Princeton have a better public perception as far as a place to live, if they can see that we don't have the highest electric bills around, because we don't. So, I think maybe we should, moving forward, we should, look at what it's going to take to go paperless. I think maybe the city could look at what it would cost for them to do their own billing on the sewer, and just see if they could do a study and see what it would cost them to do that if we, decided to go that route, just to see what their options are, what the value of that is.
So let me go back and, I mentioned work group, and I thought you nodded yay on that. Is there a time?
Yes.
I have my calendar in front of me. I don't. I'm here this week and next week, and then I'm visiting grandchildren for the next 2.5 weeks. So I'm out of pocket, but I think this is an important thing to try to move forward on. Is it something you can schedule some time for, Dan, Keith? I think we could just probably have immediately just say, you know, the sewer part of that can be handled by Mr. Barbian. Isn't that right, Bob? Oh, I see Barb's gone. Oh, Bob. Oh, well, never mind, Bob. I think
well, maybe Councilor Gerald could mention that to him.
Yeah. Send him a text. Bob Barbian just volunteered to do the utility billing for the city. Good.
So we're talking about a work group of just doing a special meeting of the commission to discuss utility billing strategies for the future. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to put some dates out there, Keith, then maybe we can just respond whether that works.
Okay, I'm here next week, but then I'm out of town until the 23rd. So I'll be back for the 24th meeting. If we want to get together next week, I'm wide open there.
Okay, yeah, I'll throw some dates together for the commission and then schedule a special meeting.
Okay, good deal.
And I would assume it would be a Zoom meeting still?
You know, if it's, yeah, I guess, yeah, but if it's you know, if it's just a special meeting on one topic, you know, I don't see the need for Scott or Ryan to be there. You know, we'll have fewer people. We could maybe set up some tables in the power plant so we've got good distancing for a smaller meeting. I guess that might be an option. I get. What do you two think?
I think that sounds fine. Councilor Gerald and City Administrator Barbian might like to be there to see what we have to say. And once again, I'd like to thank Bob for volunteering. Oh, never mind. I'm picking on you, Bob. You were on the phone and we volunteered your office to do the utility billing for the city. Thanks again for that.
Good.
You can find a date, Keith. That would be great, and then we can get together at an appropriate distance and at least discuss what those possibilities might be and the advantages of doing something different.
Yeah, I think if we could have more of an in-person meeting, because we're going to get into a lot of details, a lot of nuances, and that might be, we might be able to facilitate that better if we can see each other in person and have a little bit of an easier dialogue than you can have via Zoom.
Right. Any thoughts, Councilor Gerald? Would you mind attending something like that?
No, I wouldn't mind attending at all. It might be good for Mr. Barbian to be there as well. And then we can talk about ideas. And if it's something that you guys are going to have us switch to doing, we would obviously need time to, find out what our costs would be and get that all set up, because it would be a pretty big process for us. So. Oh yeah, absolutely. There's lots and lots to discuss and to think about. It's not something we want to do by the end of the month. So let's give it some thought so that when we do get together, we can have kind of our ducks in a row.
Yeah, even for us, if we just split the 3 bills, I mean, it's changing our entire process. So all of this is going to take time, and that's why it's good to make sure we're having a dialogue and trying to, make sure we all understand the direction that we want to go.
Well, and I think it's worth pointing out that the sewer basically is billed and based off of the water usage. So to have them 3 separate, I guess it starts to get pretty inefficient.
It's complicated.
Yeah, I think there are, and Bob, there are cities that do bill sewer on a quarterly basis. So, that might be something that, we could look into, or the city could look into. So if it's just the sewer and they're getting on a quarterly basis, it might not be that hard.
but it's based on the water usage, and typically those that do quarterly bills, their sewer and water are quarterly. At least the ones I'm aware of.
Yeah, that's what I've seen as well. But yeah, I think to Dan's point, even if we did split our electric and water, we could even look at billing water on a quarterly basis as well, and just kind of figure out. There's a lot of logistics that we'd have to work through. But I think since we're looking into it, we can kind of look into all of it and see what makes sense going forward.
Okay. Thank you all for that. Keith will look forward to setting up a date. As I mentioned earlier, I've stricken item 8H and 8I, and I interjected 8J, Juliet. And since I interjected this, I'm going to bring it up if I can. I have right now, my email is published out there for the world to see. It's the same one my kids and grandkids use, and people selling me automotive extended warranties and life insurance and a whole bunch of other nonsense that I'm not happy to get. And that's mixed up with the business of Princeton Public Utilities. I think it's inappropriate, should I say. I think it would be appropriate for members of the commission to have a Princeton Utilities email so that Princeton Utilities business, people that see my email out there on the website, can send me an email that directly is directed to me as a commission member. The city council folks have city council emails. Keith has a Princeton Utilities email, as do the rest of the staff. I think it'd be appropriate, and I think it also keeps it cleaner. So when we're doing business for the public utilities, it's there in our history of public utilities email. So when we get an irritating question from Mr. Henniger from the newspaper, we can look in our public utilities file and say, here it is, Tim, everything you needed to know. I think it's not only better for us to keep things together, but it's also prudent in times of Freedom of Information Acts and other stuff that we keep that stuff. And then it can be housed and backed up on the utility servers, whoever's got them, CW or the Man in the Moon. I don't care who has them, but they should be out there and backed up so you have some security. And I'm sure that that's what happens at, I say I'm sure, I don't know this for a fact, but I assume that's what happens at the city council. And I think it just behooves us to do the same thing.
Yes, as I mentioned to you, Greg, it's something that I had actually started thinking about as well, to try to keep the people's personal lives separate from the activities they do on the commission, so that we're people keep those separate. I think it's a great thing to do. As I mentioned, I think in my general manager's report, we're currently working through our email migration to the Microsoft Network server. Once that is complete, I think it would be really easy to set up individual email accounts for all active commissioners and use that going forward as a means for the public to contact whoever might be sitting in those roles. So I'd be happy to look into that and set something up for everyone.
Okay, good idea. And that brings me to the end. Any other comments or questions before we dismiss? In that case, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
You're muted again, Dan.
Yeah, but if you're deaf like me, you could read that he just said, I make that motion to adjourn. Thank you, Dan. I make the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
There
we go. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. See you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.